Alrighty, good evening. So we are in BlueJ. So if we go under BlueJ, let's create a new project. And let's call this one If-else-if. Alright, I'm going to create that project and close my other one. And then let's create a new class, and I'm just going to call this If-else to keep it simple. Alright, so we click in and it is really zoomed in. That's probably from class. Alright, make this full screen. Let's highlight everything and get rid of it. And we're going to be starting with public class, and we called it if else. And then we build our shell and if else class. And then we need to build our main method. So public static void main string args, and that completes our main method. So end of main method. All right. So we're going to start with some stuff, some review. So we talked about all of our Boolean operators, and we also talked about declaring integers and declaring strings. So I'm going to start with declaring a string, and let's call it user. And I want it to be equal to my name. Alright, so we have a string user and its name, and it's set to Timothy. Then let's have an integer, and let's call it password. Choose an integer as password. Alright, and for simplicity reasons, we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so far so good. Alright, and let's build a basic if. So we did an if loop, and let's just use for now. Actually, let's look at using multiple Boolean operators. So before, let's say if we had the integer, so we had password, and we used a double equal and said if it was equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then we would run this, right? So we've seen this, and let's just say system.out.println, and let's just say welcome. So you remember this. So first let's look at having multiple Boolean operators there, or multiple checks. So if I add two and symbols there, and for my string, remember we are going to, like talked about in class, the name of my string from up here, and instead of a double equal sign, I have to put dot equals, and then whatever I want it to be equal to. So let's say Timothy. Okay, so when we're comparing integers or doubles or stuff like that, primitives, we use that double equals. And for our string type, we use the name of the string and then dot equals with whatever you would like it equal to inside. And I just deleted my parenthesis. There we go. All right. So now if these two things are true, then it should run this. So let's just verify this works before we continue. And so far it compiled, we run it, and it says welcome, which is what we wanted. So we can just make sure this is really working. And now, since that is not true, for this to work, both of these must be true. If it's not, then it won't run. So we compile it, and let's try to run it again. And nothing happens because that is not true. We have no other code in our program, so nothing's going to happen. Well, I could make it run if I did or instead. So if I did 2 lines like that, now this is if this is true or this is true, then run this code. So compile it, and let's try to run that. And it worked. We had the one welcome from before and this welcome now. So let me clear that out before we keep going. All right. So now we're going to talk about, let's have this as an and. Let's fix that up. All right. So if this is true, this code runs. Sometimes we want to have multiple checks. So we have what's called an if-else. So the way this works is if these conditions are not true, so if one of them is false because we're using an and, then it'll skip this. With having an else here, now it will run whatever is inside the else. So let's say system.out.println, and you could say access denied. Okay. So these two things are true, so it should say welcome if we run this now. So we run it. Says welcome. Now let's manipulate it a little bit. And let's get rid of the Y again. Compile it. Still accepts the code. Run it. And now access is denied. That was the welcome from before. Okay. So that's an if else. And then we have one more thing, which we can kind of add on a little bit of extra. Okay. And that is we can have what's called an else if. So we can say else if, and if only the password is correct, let's say, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Then it will run, and let me just do a little bit of that, and system.out.println, and we want it to say username incorrect. Okay. And let me add on to this else. So this is what we call an if, else if, else. So the way it works is kind of like an if else, except we have a second if. And this works from top to bottom. So if the password is equal to that and the username is equal to that, then it'll just say welcome. Then it's going to go here and check this. So if this is true, it's going to do that and then get out of this whole thing and just finish running. Now here, if this is false, it's going to go to the next else if. So else if the password is correct, it'll say the username is incorrect. And then it goes on to the next thing and says, if that's true, then it'll run that and then jump out. And then here we have the else. And so really what's going to happen here is if this is false and that's false, then it will run this no matter what. So it'll run one of these three because we put that else. This is kind of our catch. Okay. And if we wanted to, we could even add an additional one. So if I said else if, and let's say the username, so user.equals, once again, different. Okay, and let's say Timothy. Then we can say system.out.println, and we could say password is incorrect this time. Alright. So now we have kind of multiple tiers. So if we run this, what should happen, so if we look at our username and our password, this is false. This is true. So it should run username incorrect. So let's compile and, oop, missed a parentheses there. So compile again, there we go. Alright, let's run it. So it should say username incorrect, and it does. Now let's try to manipulate this a little bit more. And we'll say if the password is equal to that. So now it should get to here. If the user equals Timothy, which it does, then it should say password incorrect. So this is false. This is false. This is true, so it should go here. So let's compile that, run it, and now password is incorrect. And then the final one, if all of them are wrong, so false, 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 it's going to run this else no matter what. So all I did was took a y off of the else if here. Alright, and let's run this, and it should say access denied. And sure enough, it does. So that's an if-else-if statement, and there's a lot of different ways we can use it. So we went over how to structure an if-else-if, how to use multiple Boolean operators using the and or the or, and also the difference between the double equals and the dot equals operators. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. See you guys next time.